Hey everybody, welcome to the Peace with Dementia Rosary Education and Tensions community. My name is Matt Estrad and I help busy Catholic families who are impacted by Alzheimer's and other types of dementias to make sense of this challenging journey through practical tips and through utilizing our rich Catholic faith. We do this through the Dementia Rosary Daily on Facebook. These are live videos. We have a weekly email newsletter and we have monthly interviews. All of this at our hub, dementiarosary.com. If you're not familiar with what we do here, this is a ministry for memory impairment, and it's my mission to help you and others who are impacted by Alzheimer's and dementia. Glad that you're joining me for this video where we can highlight our accomplishments and also some lessons learned through this past year. So the first thing I want to highlight are the live rosary videos that we did. We did 13 in all, one for each month. And when I was at the beach in May of 2020, I did one there also. You can go back and you can pray with me and others that were on the videos. So when we got through May, one of my friends, Elliot Lenormand, said, Matt, it would be great if it wasn't just you praying the rosary on there. Have you thought about inviting a guest over to say the second part of the prayer? And I thought that was an awesome idea. So I looked for those guests who were Catholic, who wanted to say a rosary, and they also wanted to had a great deal of information to share for you impacted by Alzheimer's and other types of dementias. So in June we had Kate Fassbender, and she is a creative dementia specialist in Rhode Island, and we talked about creative engagement, and we had an awesome rosary as we did with all these guests. Next we had Matt Deenan. Matt is a high school theology teacher in Ottawa, Canada. Most importantly, he's the care partner for his wife Lisa, who has frontal temporal dementia. We talked about utilizing our Catholic faith on this journey, and we also talked about his advocacy efforts in Canada to open up all churches to persons living with dementia. Not just opening them, of course, but making them feel welcome, whether you're Catholic, whether you're going to synagogue, going to any kind of church. So the next month we have Dr. Roland Miller. Dr. Roland is a theologian and professor with the St. John Paul II Foundation in Houston, Texas, and we talked about looking at suffering through the Catholic lens, and we talked about Pope encyclicals, we talked about Scripture, and it was just an amazing conversation that we had. The next month, we had the prolific Catholic author, Gary Zimick. Now, you know Gary from his many books on stress, on anxiety, and about worrying, and he was a care partner for his mom who had dementia for 20 years. So, as you would expect, that brings a lot of anxiety. So he highlighted how he dealt with that. He highlighted his journey, and he talked to us about his most recent book. So check out that in that interview. I think you'll really enjoy it. Next, we had Dr. Tom Carroll. Dr. Carroll is a professor and a physician at the University of Rochester. He's also an internist and a palliative care specialist. So we talked about end-of-life care and what does that look like through our Catholic theology, through our Catholic practice. So you want to make sure that you check that out. Next was Tony Agnesi. Tony is another Catholic author. I met him through the Catholic Writers Guild, and this was in November. So we talked about Thanksgiving, and he told us about his idea of the Thanksgiving Rosary, as well as shared some many stories about suffering and putting that into perspective on this and other different types of journeys. Next, we had in December, we rounded out the year with Dr. Mario Sacasa. Dr. Sacasa is with the Willwoods Ministry, which is part of the New Orleans Archdiocese. He's a licensed marriage and family counselor, and he talked about hope, finding hope on this difficult journey of dementia. He has a podcast called Always Hope that I definitely recommend, and that's really what we talked about why should we have hope and how can we find hope through our Catholic faith. And we also talked about the ever important role of a counselor on your dementia care team. I've never heard it mentioned before, but I think it makes a lot of sense. So check that out and you will find out why we believe that. And then also in December, but is not coming out for another week, in January of 2021, I interviewed Dr. Tom Neal, who is a professor and has many, many other positions at the Notre Dame Seminary here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And then just last week, I interviewed Dr. Michelle Longo, who is a neurologist at the Tulane Center for Neurological Clinical Care. So you'll want to check those out. She's going to be coming out. That interview is coming out in February. Now, if you are a Patreon subscriber, you're going to have access to all of the interviews that have passed, of course. But being a Patreon subscriber, you have access to all the ones that have not come out yet. So you'll be able to see Dr. Neal before it comes out in January. You'll be able to see Dr. Longo before it comes out in February, and we'll do the same thing throughout the year. So early access is going to be something, in addition to the most important thing, which is just supporting this ministry for memory impairment. So after those videos, I want to highlight 50 weekly email newsletters. So starting about the second week of January of 2020, started using the MailChimp newsletter format, where I sent new information each of those weeks. Started off on a Monday, now they're on Tuesdays. It's just that day makes more sense. So and through that, we had new podcasts. We would debut some of these rosaries and interviews that we were talking about. We had articles, and in that I created 19 articles around the concept of these critical dementia skills. So it's not just about our Catholic faith here and worship and scripture. It is about practical dementia skills to help you, and I intermix in our faith with those articles. So I encourage you to check those out. So there's 19 that I wrote, and I think there will be more, but even more important is that we're going to go back to those different 19 articles and drill down deeper in them and have sort of like sub-articles based on those topics. So please check that out. Those come out on our blog. So if you go to the website, dementiarosary.com, you'll see that. If you go to articles, or its blog, actually, you'll be able to find all 19 articles plus many more. So we had one bookstore presentation and book signing that was here in Metairie, and that was Pauline Books and Media on Veterans. And I really want to thank Sister Mary Martha Moss, who helped facilitate that and got me over there. So it was very well attended. It was pre-pandemic. It was this January 23rd of 2020. So we had a really good crowd. I presented on dementia as a way to bring us closer to Jesus Christ. So it was very well received, and I enjoyed giving it. And then, of course, the book signing afterwards was a lot of fun. So speaking of book signing, so it was March 21st, I think. I was supposed to be in Chicago for a conference, and because of the pandemic, that conference got canceled. My flight got canceled, or at least my trip got canceled. So then the Chicago bookstore signing with Pauline Books and Media got canceled also. So I'm hoping to reschedule that sometime in 2021. All of this, God willing, right? So on our dementia prayer wall, we added 10 new prayers. If you're not familiar with it, you go to the website, dementiarosary.com, and then you can either just go to the dementia prayer wall to look at the prayers and pray for them, or you can add a prayer. We highly suggest that you add a prayer, whether you have dementia, whether you're a care partner, whether you are supporting the friend, whether you are a friend or supporting a care partner of someone with dementia. We want your prayers. We cherish the opportunity to pray for you. And then what's neat about this, if you haven't been to it, is that you'll see the prayers, and there'll also be a green button that says, I prayed for you. So after you say a brief prayer on that intention, you can click the button. You can add your initials or first name, and then that person will get an email from you. They won't see your email address, but they'll get an email that says that so-and-so prayed for them. So how awesome would that be if you put an intention there and someone prayed for you, and besides just feeling the power of the prayer, you actually got a physical email that said so-and-so prayed for you. So I hope that you'll help us participate that and help us create this network of emotional support that is so. In August of 2020, I joined mycatholicdoctor.com. This is a website of Catholic providers that offer telehealth to people in the United States, and it can be internal medicine, it can be natural fertility, family planning, it could be, in my case, Alzheimer's and dementia consulting. So I provide support groups on there for both caregivers, care partners, as well as those who are in the early stages of dementia. And I also do one-on-one consults. So please go ahead and check us out. And I really want to thank Dr. Kathleen Berkelman for bringing me aboard mycatholicdoctor.com. And then interestingly enough, Dr. Tom Carroll, the palliative care specialist that I interviewed in October of 2020, is also a part of mycatholicdoctor.com. And I also want to recognize that I recently joined the Catholic Medical Association, so I'm really looking forward to interacting with my colleagues and my peers with the Medical Association, learning from them, learning from the seminars, and reaching out to many providers with these resources. On October 7th of 2020, I was very glad to launch the Peace with Dementia Rosary podcast. If you've been to my website, you know that I've had the Peace with Dementia podcast since 2018, but this brings on a second podcast that is focused around the book. And when I interview Dr. Carroll and Dr. Sakasa, Dr. Longo, so while you'll see the videos on YouTube, you will see or you get to listen to the podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, etc. So, and remember, and these are going to be audio, so we actually do separate tracks. So we have an interview track, and then we have a rosary track. So you can check those out to learn, and then also the next track to pray with us. In April of 2020, I started a Dementia Rosary Daily through Facebook Live, and then sometimes they were on YouTube. And we've come a long way. These usually were in my backyard, and they were in response of COVID, really just to connect with people on a daily basis, to pray with people on a daily basis. And I'm glad to report that we have as of New Year's Day, we have 255 of those Facebook Live videos in a row. So at first, I admit that I was kind of afraid about committing to a daily video, but I've really embraced it, and it's helped me personally to stay even more connected, because I would have the weekly articles that I would write, the monthly interviews, but having a touch point on the ministry every day, even though this is not my full-time job, has been a huge blessing. So I'm glad I made that commitment and took the plunge. And like with everything else, with the grace of God, I was able to do that, not getting sick, not having any other kind of issue. So every day, usually it's 8 a.m. on Facebook, and sometimes it's been 11 p.m. at night if it was a kind of a crazy day or I was doing some traveling. So I've even had a Facebook Live when camping with the Scouts. So no matter where I am, whether it's my car, a campsite, an office, or here in the home office, you'll see me every day doing that to continue as long as I possibly can. In 2020, I was interviewed 8 times by Gabby Smith and the Wake Up Crew on 690 AM here in New Orleans. This is our Catholic radio station for Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and the rest of South Louisiana. And we started interviewing actually a year ago, I believe. But this particular year, they started having me as a monthly guest on the second Tuesday of the month at 7:30. So between Gabby, Jeff Blackwell, their whole crew, I feel very blessed for them to shine a light on the ministry and the work that we're doing here. And I really feel like we're reaching a lot of people through that means. So God bless them. And I also want to thank Mark Shafisi, who introduced me to the Wake Up Crew, and my friend Anna Dardis, who introduced me to Mark Shafisi. So you see how this works, right? You meet, it's through your connections, through these, it's through grace, through all these connections that we're able to bring the ministry. So if you know people who I should be speaking with, whether they're clients, whether they're people who just need the education, or they're people with platforms, let them know about what we're doing, and great things will come from that. Also this year, I was interviewed by 3 individuals in the Catholic media. The first one was Jason Angelette. Jason is with Will Woods Community, who is you might recognize is also with Dr. Mario Sakasa. So Jason interviewed me. It was a 3-part series that he put on YouTube, and we talked about dementia. We talked about our faith and the struggles and how our Catholic faith can help us, which is a huge theme around here. It's hope, it's peace, it's trusting in the Lord. And in October, I was very blessed to be interviewed by Charlene Katra. She is the executive director of the National Catholic Partnership on Disability. And quick story about that, I had not heard of this organization, but November of 2019, I'm getting ready to go to a conference in Baton Rouge, turn on the radio, and I'm listening to one of her colleagues talking about the National Catholic Partnership on Disability. And I thought that that morning, I took that as a signal of grace, and thinking I need to reach out to this great organization. So I'm glad I did, and it took a little time, but Charlene and I have been talking, and we had the interview in October, and then even previous to that, I think it was September, they allowed me to write a blog article about dementia-friendly parishes. So I was very blessed to do the interview and write that article for them, and wish them all the best in future partnerships in 2021. And then the last interview that I did was actually in the month of December with Kent Kaholsky with the Fiat Ministry. Now, this ministry has been around for 10 years, and Kent is just a tireless champion of the Catholic faith and evangelization, trying to get it out to as many people. So I feel very blessed to have been joined by Kent on that. I'll have a link to that video, as well as all the different videos, articles, and everything that I've been talking about during this video on accomplishments. And perhaps one of the things that I'm most proud of for 2020 is that I personally said 575 rosaries, always keeping you in mind, those in my ministry, those in my family, those asking me for special intentions. And I do that with a daily rosary of 5 decades, and then in October, late October, I kicked it up to 20 decades, or 4 rosaries per day. So doing the math, that's what I came up with, or at least that many. And I thank Gabriel Castillo, who is a youth leader and formation director in Houston, Texas, for that idea and that challenge of 4 rosaries a day. And it sounds crazy, but it is easier to do 4 rosaries than to do 1. And you just have to trust me, and maybe I'll have a future video about it. But I've experienced tremendous signal graces and other gifts through saying this, and I would expect that you have received graces from these as well. I'm very excited about the plans that we have for 2021 for this Ministry for Memory Impairment. The first one being virtual and in-person training for both clergy and lay ministry for dementia. So dementia is something that people suffer in silent many times, and people isolate themselves. So I think by understanding what dementia is, we can really have some great outreach and understanding and pastoral care for people who are impacted, both the persons living with dementia and their care partners. I'm also very excited about a second addition to the Peace with Dementia Rosary Education Intentions Community. And essentially, this is an update to the book that I published in 2019. And then also, as long as that happens, and I think it will, we'll have a Spanish version to have further outreach online and in person. So please pray for all these plans. They're big plans, and I know there are things that are going to come up that I don't even expect, blessings and obstacles. So please continue to pray for me, pray for this Ministry for Memory Impairment. I feel so blessed to have been called to this ministry by Jesus, by the Blessed Virgin Mary. I also thank my family for understanding all the times when I have to break away to do a video, or to go ahead and write and to edit a video. So it takes a lot of time. This is not my full-time job, but it is something that I must do. So thank you for your support, both your prayers and your financial support. If you've not been with us in 2020, I encourage you to stick around, to subscribe to all of our different social media channels, to our email newsletter, and stick around, and we're going to do some great things in 2021. Thank you for watching. Know that you're in my daily rosary intentions, and God bless.